one podcast, mining the Magic the Gathering community for salt. This is the Howling Salt Mine.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Howling Salt Mine podcast, the podcast where we delve into those salty minds of the Magic the Gathering community, find the salty stories, the salty posts that we love, and we put them in our mine cart to bring them to you, our dear, lovely, sweet and lovely prospectors at home. As always, I'm your host, Sam, and I'm joined today in the Pillow Fort with my two lovely co-hosts, Mike and Tony. Say hello, guys.
What up, what up, what up? What is up, my mammals?
What is up, my mammals, indeed. You're just making me do silly things.
Yep.
Yeah, what is up, my mammals? But before we go any further, we got to shout them out, our nice tier patrons. And Sam from the editing room is going to say them right now. Thanks, Sam. We appreciate that.
Thanks, Sam.
And this week we have Accidental TPK, Alex Balix, Crean Bean, Dr. Black, and ZZ. Thank you for all being so nice.
Nice. Sometimes did you guys see, what's that new movie that just came out, but it was an old movie with vampire stuff?
Nosferatu?
Yes.
I did not see it. I heard there's a lot of vampire dick in it, though. I heard
doesn't Willem
I heard he
Dafoe
hangs
hang vampire dong?
Yeah, I heard he hangs dong. And that his mustache is weird. That's the only things I know about it. I'm sure that's not the legacy they wanted for that film.
It's not, and there's definitely more to it than that. I don't like those kinds of movies. So
did you see it?
Which kind of movies? The one where there's
a bunch of vampire dong hanging out, that's not
personally
my vibe usually.
I love those movies. Yeah, you're more of a
there's
Frankenstein dong guy.
I don't want the dong to hang, that's the my God, you mean he's getting strung up by your vampire dong?
No, they're not. They're not. It's just, it hangs out. It's a turn of phrase. It's a turn of phrase. Hanging dong.
Anyway, somehow I was going to translate all that to Sam from the editing room. It's this in the shadows kind of character that we don't really know of.
Yeah. Mysterious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Sam from the editing room, but he often does not like Sam from the recording room because I leave a lot of work for that guy to do. Yeah. And then I'll listen through and I'm like, oh,
it's like a newer thing where you're just like, you know what? Sam from the editing room will hit that now.
Yeah, it is. I know. I'm getting lazier. Sam from the recording room is slacking off.
Yeah.
Making it future Sam's problem,
Yeah.
Past Sam. So, Mike, you just hit up a dope LGS. You were telling us about this.
hell yeah.
And had to get together with some buddies.
Oh,
play
yeah.
Magic all day.
Oh yeah, my buddies, listeners of the show will know him. Pat organized, and
We love
Nico
Pat.
as well, organized a group of 8 people to get together to draft. So of course 7 people showed up. But we met at the Battle Standard in Connecticut. It's awesome game store. They had tons of terrain tables set up. So when I walked in, there were probably 40 people, maybe more, playing miniature games of different kinds, a bunch of Warhammer, but I think definitely some Star Wars games and stuff as going on, which was pretty cool to see. And then they had a downstairs area that had a whole tournament section as well, that there was a Flesh and Blood tournament that happened at one point.
Sick.
And then they have a respectable little collection of singles and some binders of stuff you can look through. Decent product. A bunch of us all bought some collector packs, and then a ton of Warhammer product as well, which is the most.
I thought Warhammer was dead or dying.
No,
it's not. You're thinking of War Machine.
Yeah, you're thinking of War Machine.
That is incredibly dead. I used to play War Machine at the Battle Standard many, many moons ago.
That was the largest inventory of Warhammer minis that I'd seen for sale somewhere.
That's dope.
And they also have a restaurant, much like TJ's, but they also have a bar as a part of that restaurant. So you can get
TJ's
a drink or two.
Drinky.
And shout out to, I ran into one of our patrons there, Oddball. Shout out to Oddball. Thanks for being there. It was nice meeting you. I'm sorry I didn't give you tokens. I realized
the
like
hill.
this morning. yeah. Running riot.
Oddball was fun. Anyway.
Yeah, true. So we planned to have 8 people together to get together for a draft. One of my buddies was stuck filming, so he could not join us.
What were you drafting? What's that?
We drafted Commander Legends, the Baldur's Gate Commander Legends.
Oh, dude,
so
fucking hot. I love that
it
stuff.
was fucking great, especially a bunch of the people in it like play a bunch of D&D. So, there's some like
good.
lore connections.
Crossover
A bunch of people like have been recently playing the Baldur's Gate game, you know. So everyone was trying to open Shadowheart.
Oh, dude.
Aren't we all?
It's like so. I was so underwhelmed when I actually saw the Shadowheart card. I was like, man, like the art is like so far away. She like looks really tiny on it. I'm like, what's going on here? Like they could have like done like they should have. They did my girl dirty, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
they should have done like full art borderless.
Your girl,
you know
did you get her?
Yeah, she's
Did
tough
you
nut to
marry
crack.
her in Baldur's Gate?
I don't know if we got married, but
Well, then you didn't get
certainly a
it.
couple.
Then you didn't get it. That's what I'm trying to say.
wow.
okay.
Get after it or no?
Well, okay.
Okay, all right, Tony.
then.
Jeez.
We just let her kill everybody in our campaign, but that's
Yeah, we do keep losing
all the main
essentially all
characters.
of the other companion characters in
Why, they're
the
dead?
Baldur's Gate
Yeah.
story that Tony and I are playing.
Yeah, we'll
God,
play with one of our other friends, and like,
He chose Dark Urge, and he's
Oh, so it's
giving
really
in to the urges.
Yeah.
but no,
Makes
like
sense.
Shadowheart was like, I'm gonna kill this bitch Lae'zel, and then the prompt comes up, should you intervene? And Steve's like, nah. So she just slits her throat, and he's like, oh, I didn't think that would happen. And I was like, yeah,
God.
dude.
Has he never played a video game in his entire life?
dead.
All right, we can't get into this.
Yeah.
We can't get into this. But Steven, there's something wrong with you. I know you don't listen. But there's something wrong. Oh God.
Yeah.
Anywho, so
Yeah,
you
so
guys
we
had
so
this
we did a
draft.
draft. We were missing a person, but we still wanted to do an 8-person draft
Yep.
because like the box comes with exactly enough packs to draft for 8 people. So we did for each pack, someone drafted the 8th pack, like the 8th seat as well,
Oh,
right
that's
after
cool.
them, and they drafted it face up. So the cards were
Ooh,
picked face
okay.
up. So we switched who did it for each of the packs.
Yeah.
Um,
So you kind of collaboratively like built this side.
built
deck.
this, yeah,
Were you
built this
building
8th deck.
commander deck?
Yeah, you build
Okay.
commander decks, but you can have, but not really. You have a commander, and it's the set with the backgrounds,
Yeah.
and you build a 60 card deck, and you can run duplicates because it would be tough to draft without being able to
That
like,
makes
play
sense.
duplicates on it. So you have a pretty decent ability to run card pool, and the packs are 20 card packs, and you draft 2 cards out of them at a time.
Oh,
So they're
that's
pretty quick,
interesting.
like
The draft rounds are fast.
draft rounds are pretty quick. They wheel and then go like 2 spots farther. So they don't, it's not quite like packs don't make it around twice in the same way.
That's interesting.
But yeah, it was good. We drafted a couple things, and then to play, we still wanted to play 2 4-tops. So for the first game, I like multi-played. I played 2 different, like a deck in each of the games.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Did you win?
No, but I ended up
because you were trying to win in 2 different places.
not exactly. I
it's just
didn't.
'cause
I
you're
ran out of agency in both. I got to Hellbent in one of them.
That makes it very easy to play, though.
Which made it very easy to play. And then I had 7 cards in my hand in the other one, but they were all lands. So pretty much Hellbent in the other one as well.
Yeah.
And one of the guys in that pod, I was on Selesnya in that pod playing as the shared drafted deck that we had prepared for our 8th friend, who we thought was going to show up during the draft. But then by the time that we were done with the draft, we were like, oh, they're just not making
they're
it.
not making it.
We had a player on Gale who...
Boo.
Gale is whenever you play an instant, you can play a sorcery from your graveyard. And whenever you play a sorcery,
Yes.
you can play an instant from your graveyard.
Yep.
You still have to pay the costs and everything. They were playing Dimir with Gale, and they hit Cone of Cold, which taps everything and then leaves it tapped for a round.
Oh.
And they had a board wipe. And then they got to play both of those twice because they could just use the other thing. So there were essentially
sucks.
like 6 rotations of the board where like we were all either tapped down or getting wiped, and then tapped down again, and then getting wiped again. And
brutal.
yeah, it was brutal. But also it needed to happen a little bit because I was playing Halsin with Veteran Soldier, and Halsin is a commander that lets you pay 1 and turn a creature token into a 4/4.
Oh,
And Veteran Soldier is whenever your commander attacks the opponent with the most life, you make a 1/1 attacking each opponent.
oh man.
And then if you have 3 mana available, you can turn them all into 4/4s. So like
Nuts.
I was
You were
making a
aggroing
lot of
pretty
guys every turn,
Yeah.
basically. But I only got to attack with that like 2 times because throughout the rest of the game, they were either tapped down or killed. But both of the games were pretty fun. And then we had all brought a couple commanders, a couple buffs, and a couple nerfs. And we'd done this before, but we did it again where we spun wheels to like get these weird deck building restrictions. And then we're all going to go build these decks and we'll meet up again to play another time. So
Sick.
we put like 16 commanders on a wheel and then spin it and you'd see which one you would get. And that's the one you would have. And then we had a bunch of buffs. Those were things like you could swap out one of the colors of your commander's color identity for another, or at the beginning of each of your upkeeps, you can pay X life and scry X.
Oh man, that one's
I mean, that's fucking
That one's pretty
nasty.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think we limited that to max of X is 10, which is still ridiculous.
a
But
lot.
and so like a bunch of
Scry
things
10,
like that.
but the exact 10 cards you want on top and get rid of stuff.
It's pretty good.
Nasty.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then nerfs, which are either deck building restrictions or things that happen during the game. So the nerf that I got is, well, the commander I opened was Torsen. It's like a 3 mana 2/2 with training. And whenever you cast a creature spell,
yeah.
you make a 1/1 with training.
Yep.
And training is when it attacks. If it attacks with something bigger than it, it gets a +1/+1 counter on it. So I got that. And then my buff
What the fuck
is
is that from?
I think it's a commander
I think
product.
it might be Innistrad.
It could be Innistrad. It's like Fist of the Angels or something.
Yes, yeah. I think it's like a Selesnya human.
Yeah,
build.
it's Selesnya.
Sorry, I actually meant the training mechanic.
I
Oh,
think it's
I think
from
I think it's from
Innistrad.
that,
Because like
yeah.
there's like Hopeless Initiate or Hopeful Initiate or something, which lets you like pay, has training, but also lets you pay to remove counters from stuff to blow stuff
Oh,
up.
that's pretty cool.
Just thinking of the one other card I know that uses that mechanic, really.
Gotcha.
The buff that I got was I can have 10 of any one card.
Oh my god, dude.
So the immediate meme is like, maybe I just run 10 Soul Rings. But I'm probably going to run something else that'll be a little more interesting.
10 Soul Rings would
And
be
then
really
it would be
funny.
ridiculous. And then the nerf that I got is once per game, each opponent can look at my hand.
Oh my god, that's awful.
Yeah.
Do they have to agree to the moment?
No.
All
They
can-
each get their
one of them
own
gets
free
to.
get probe against
Jeez,
me
That's
during the
nuts.
game.
Honestly,
Which
though,
they were
that feels
joking like
not
for-
that bad.
I'm probably one of the players in the group that has like played the most. So they were like, if anyone was going to get that one, it's the hardest nerf for Mike. So that's fun. Yeah, so we everybody spins the wheel for all of those. We
This dude's
take
got
out
10
the
Soul Rings in his hand.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you can see what I've got, but it's all the same card. And then after that, we also spun a wheel for budget that was
Oh, cool.
applied to everybody.
Yeah.
And then after that, anybody could re-roll any one of their rolls. So a couple people re-rolled the budget that applied to everybody.
Yeah.
And then some people re-rolled their buff and some people re-rolled their nerf as well.
What was the budget that you guys ended with?
We ended up landing on a $100 budget.
That's pretty solid.
But we re-rolled budget twice. The first budget that we landed on was every non-land card needs to be more than $5.
Needs to be more than 5.
Yeah.
Is that
No, sorry. Must be more than $1. Must be more than
okay?
$1.
That's not too bad.
But one player was on a commander that has it's horse, unicorn, and Pegasus typal.
Oh, I know that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of those creatures are well below
Yeah.
$1. So
A lot of
they
those are
needed
like
to
chaff.
they needed to re-roll it basically.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's neat.
That's cool, man. That sounds like a ton of fun.
Yeah. I'm excited to see how the builds are. Last time we did it with just 4 people, and this time we're doing it with 8. So
Yeah.
it'll be more interesting. We'll
Wasn't
probably
it
get a couple
7?
more games. We rolled 4. Our friend that did not make it. Chadwick.
Just give him the shittiest. Like, wow, yeah, you ended
Every
up with this
time,
one.
every time we were like,
Every
well,
time
he
you cast a
rolls
spell,
last.
we get to punch you in the nards.
when we were because initially we thought he was going to make it for the draft as well, like we said, but when we were drafting for him, we were like, okay, you always draft his after. yourself. So he was always getting like the slightly shittier pick of every single pick. But
that's awesome, man. It sounds like a good time.
it was great.
I haven't like hit up an LGS and just like chilled hard in a while. And I'm really stoked that you're at TBS because I've talked about it. It's been a while. But I talked about it a long time ago that I'm good friends with the owner.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that he's had this project cooking up where he's been wanting to open this LGS and expand it and have this like tavern aspect where you can get food and cocktails and shit. And it sounds like it's
awesome.
Just a dope execution.
It's awesome. Yeah.
I think it's in East Windsor, Connecticut.
East
right?
Windsor, Connecticut.
So if people are around, go hit it up.
Yep.
It's fucking sick.
Yeah.
We should get down there one of these days.
Yeah, we
do like
should.
a little takeover.
But yeah, it was awesome.
Dope, dude. Did anyone get salty?
There was definitely a moment of sadness, sulkiness. I don't know that it was full on salt, but Nico was playing a Rakdos deck and he had something that takes control of a creature and then gives it myriad.
Oh,
like a threaten effect that gives something myriad.
Jeez.
And another player had an Abdel Adrian out. So they threatened and stole the Abdel.
Oh.
So they were about to get two like sequential Abdel triggers, basically.
Jeez.
And I did murder the Abdel before we made it into combat. Because I was like,
can't do that.
Mostly I was like, realistically, if we put all of this on the stack, I'm going to have to be involved in figuring out how this resolves. And I don't want to do that. So I'm just murdering it.
It's a powerful move and it will be complex.
Yes.
I don't want to do that.
And I'm in 2 games. If I was in one game, I'm down, but I don't feel like dealing with that right now.
But
simplify the position.
But wait. I'm a little confused. Sam, what is salt?
Tony, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. Salt is frustration in the game, as we like to say. It's anything in a game. Maybe it's your Abdel getting murdered before you can do a really dope move. Maybe your Abdel's getting stolen and you feel bad about it and your Abdel gets killed and you get some collateral flack. Like, I wasn't even doing anything. You killed my Abdel. Salt's anything that's going to get you a little grumpy, a little tilted, you know? And we talk about salt on this show so that we can learn from it and hopefully not be salty in a future game of Magic the Gathering.
Fuck yeah.
As we like to say, it's an edge of educational podcast.
Nice.
Landed it. Stuck the landing.
Hell yeah.
Like no wobble. Like that was like stuck. You know? You know when they see him like wobbling around, but like, no, you stuck that shit.
I stuck it, man.
Yeah, you raised your hands right up. You did the turn.
I did the turn. I went up on my toes. I did that little turn that they did.
Yeah. If you know, you know. Yeah. Well, let's get into mine.
All right, let's jump to our first story. Let's search for something, guys. What do we want to search for here to find?
Battle.
Battle.
In honor of the battle standard that I was just at, of course.
Battle. I got one right here. Ooh. Ooh. It's a long one, folks.
All right. Good.
This one comes to us from our buddy George, or Mardude. Nice. So, I mean, you gave us both names, so I'm going to call you both of that. And this post is titled Tilt Shifted by Wind Grace and Friend Grace. And if you couldn't tell by my exclamations, this is a long one, folks. You got to buckle in. I'm just going to turn and show it to the class here. Look.
Oh, he's scrolling.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, fuck.
It's a good 3 pages, 3 or 4 pages, maybe.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit it. Hello, Salt Lords. I once again come to you for cleansing, to wash away my saline ways with a salty confessional. Though, as a twist, I also come asking for advice and improvement, that I may no longer be caked by crystals in the future. First off, thanks for reading my story in episode 122. After the BM, Bad Manners, book. Oh, the BM book.
Oh, yeah.
I remember this one. After the BM book bit flopped, I stopped doing it. Instead, if I get locked out or knocked out early, I hang around the table to pog like I'm in game nights when someone else has a cool play.
Hell yeah.
It's more fun.
That is way more fun.
That is cool.
It's actually engaging with your friends. That's wonderful.
It's like the total polar opposite.
Yeah, it's so good.
Last summer, I've moved across country for school and have been shopping for a new LGS to try and meet nerds and play Magic the Gathering. I found a handful of Commander nights at different shops and would bounce around week to week to check out the vibes. I finally actually had a Friday night open for FNM Commander, as our story begins. In the second pod reshuffle, I sit down to Atraxa Proliferate and Windgrace lands. No fourth player. No fourth player to get fucked in this one. I pull out my baby, Niv Mizzet Instanter Supreme. And they sent a list, which is nice. Windgrace is a little awkward. Before we sat down, he loudly made a big stink about a bag in the seat of his pod for like 3 minutes, plopped it down at our table, then realized he was at the wrong table number to begin with. Once he settled down, he let us know that he had forgotten all of his decks at home. We offer some of our extras as loaners, but his friend already spotted him. I take this as a heads up that he might play a bit slow or a bit loose. Makes sense if you're unfamiliar with the deck. Yeah. We jump into the game.
And if you're the kind of person that forgets to bring your decks to command night.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. Everything's a little bit loose.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
We jump into the game, and by turn 4, I've ramped into Niv Mizzet Supreme with either Verdant Eidolon or Sandstorm Eidolon in hand. I have recurable discards for Niv's Jumpstart, so every instant and sorcery has a potential for 2 casts per card. Atraxa tries to Path of Exile my Niv, and I roll it back since Niv has hexproof from multicolor. I have become the threat.
Maybe just to clarify, I think that's just a typo in the story. I'm going to read this Niv Mizzet because I think this is the Niv Mizzet that actually, before I read this Niv Mizzet, do you guys want to try and take a guess as to what this Niv Mizzet is?
I have literally no idea.
Yeah.
If it's not pinging and drawing cards, like, I don't know.
Okay. Tony, do you want to take any kind of guess?
I assume it does that and it's uncounterable and
all right.
like some bullshit.
Talk to me. Mana cost.
Blue, red.
Wooburg.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm gone. I'm lost.
Stat line.
5/5.
Yeah. Tony got it.
Oh, hey, with flying?
They're like all fucking.
Yeah, it's got flying. And then it has hexproof from
I wish it
monocolored.
didn't have flying.
Oh, hexproof from monocolor.
Yep.
Okay.
And then each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard that's exactly 2 colors has Jumpstart.
Oh.
So this is from sort of the like post Is It Niv Mizzet, like when it's the avatar of all of Ravnica.
Is it Niv?
Yeah,
And
when he's the
there's
guild
now
pact.
3 Wooburg Niv Mizzets.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Stop making Niv Mizzet cards. He's not that great. Okay. So Atraxa tries to Path of Exile Niv. I roll it back since Niv has hexproof from monocolored. I have become the threat. And there's a little TM there, a little trademark. For the next few turns, I pick apart problem pieces through removal and counters while hitting land drops and draws. I end up in a position where I have a board with Jeskai Ascendancy and Fabaro Elder for free Wooburg mana every non-creature spell. Jesus Christ. Because you get the untaps. That's gross. A General Ferris Rockerick for bodies, and in hand, an Aragorn the Uniter for burn, scry, and a big creature buff. If it gets to my next turn, I also have Lorehold Command to convert Rockerick golems to damage with haste, and probably commander damage with Niv if I have an open opponent. Before it gets to my turn, Niv gets killed. No biggie. I have a Rise of the Witch King to reanimate him from a token, so I put Niv in the grave. Windgrace moves to second main and casts Scapeshift. Sack any number of lands, search your library for the same number of lands, put them in tapped, and shuffle. I think he's using this for the purpose of a landfall life gain card like Retreat to Kazandu. Landfall option 2, gain 2 life. Sick. He's the commander damage target now. Makes sense. At this point in the night, Windgrace has been tutoring for lands a lot, and instead of holding on to his turn, he's been passing to us while he finds basics and shuffles. Letting him pass is my first big mistake. I start my turn with my Prismari command to draw a little more gas, then cast Rise of the Witch King, targeting Niv. You can't do that, says Windgrace. Here, let me show you the card. No, Niv is exiled now, says Windgrace. How? Windgrace had Scapeshifted into Pajuka Bog and didn't declare it. Fuck. Okay. I roll back my turn since that should have happened on Windgrace's turn. I tell him that he should have let us know verbally, but it's okay if I can restart my turn. I get Niv out first, then Aragorn, then I Prismari command. It taps a few more lands, but I have a free 5 mana from every non-creature spell with the Jeskai Fabaro combo. On the Aragorn trigger, I see a Witherbloom Apprentice, Magecraft, opponent loses life, and I scry to the bottom. I'm low on lands, and I need to hit spells to churn through this turn. Bottoming the Strixhaven... It says bottoming the Strixhaven Twink.
Oh, boy.
Bottoming the Strixhaven Twink is my second big mistake.
Oh,
I have to look at that art again. I non-deterministic combo off and get Niv to 21 plus power make 10 plus Rockerick Golems, and go in for lethal on both players. Well, you can attack me, but I won't die, says Windgrace. What on earth could you possibly... I stop. I know this card. The bane of my casual existence, Glacial Chasm. In before Mike gets my ass, this is another story of run removal for the thing that fucks you. Chasm prevents all damage to its owner at the expense of cumulative paying life. Windgrace put it onto the battlefield with Scapeshift and didn't announce it.
Ugh.
I blow up. What the fuck? Why didn't you tell us? I didn't even know it was in the deck. This is my first time playing it. For a second, I scrambled to roll back my turn to a previous game state, but I've been scrying and discarding so much that there's no obvious order to the turn. Atraxa asks me if I have land removal. God damn it. I start feverishly looking through my deck as an illegal game action, and I don't have shit. I'm so angry. I scoop, lambasting Windgrace for not cleanly declaring lands. Windgrace keeps saying he doesn't know the deck, and I can tell that I'm making him really uncomfortable. I pack up my deck and tell him it's okay, and I root on Atraxa. I wish it ended there. Windgrace's friend who loaned the deck sniffs out the salt in the air and comes over to ask me about it. I'm pissed. Through gritted teeth, I tell him that the deck is well constructed, but annoying. Friend Grace cackles. He says he doesn't understand why his friends hate him out of the game whenever he plays it. I tell him that Glacial Chasm is a salty card. It invalidates a lot of decks' win cons with damage, so you must get around it with mill, exile, land destruction, or life loss. Friend Grace smiles wickedly. He runs Gaia's Blessing for mill and a bunch of life gain to Dirtle. I feel a vessel about to burst. Friend Grace built a deck to make his opponents want to concede because they thought it was funny, he tells me. I tell him that's a shit deck to play against randoms at an LGS. They don't know the list ahead of time, and it's unfun. After a few minutes of hearing about his favorite cards in the list, Friend Grace finally realizes I don't like the deck and apologizes, and I feel bad for making him upset. At least Atraxa has stalled out long enough that we can see Windgrace felled by Infect. Windgrace is on 9 poison, and Atraxa's next turn is game. I think there must have been a misplay. I swear Windgrace and Friend Grace had an anti-poison card in the deck, but I remember it being Hex Parasite, which wouldn't work as it has to target a permanent. Anyways, I left at a loss for words as the game is essentially over and I need to cool off. As I drive home, I realized 2 things. 1, I had it. Witherbloom Apprentice causes life loss, and Windgrace was at 50 plus life, so theoretically I could have cast enough spells to get him. I'm not positive that I had enough draw to dig through my deck, but that would have been the out if I had known about the Glacial Chasm. 2, Windgrace and Friend Grace obviously struggled at social cues. They didn't realize how irritating the deck was to me or Atraxa. Friend Grace set up Windgrace, though I wonder if Windgrace should have known about the list by, I don't know, riffling through it before playing. It doesn't matter. I was an ass to strangers over a card game. I've been to the shop more recently, and I don't think I left any personal grudges. Since this game, I stop the table when a big play is happening like Scapeshift or anything that reveals a lot of information all at once. I considered adding Decimate or Casualties of War to Niv Mizzet, Instant or Supreme, but it feels like a knee-jerk to edit the list after one game. I have a life loss card for this kind of reason, but I blitzed past it to try and shorten the game time for a non-guaranteed combo. So I come to you, Salt Fathers. How would you have dealt with this in a less saline way? Would you intentionally play win more when you have a line? Would you put a land destruction card in casual just in case? Sorry, not sorry for making this into an Am I the Bull cast for you. I'm interested to hear how y'all would react in this situation. How would you handle it with hindsight? Best regards, George, a.k.a. the Mardude. Thank you, George.
Nice, George.
What an epic.
Quick shout, if you're looking for a spicy piece of interaction that can hit lands when you want it to, but generally is not using it for that, particularly in a deck like this, Assassin's Trophy is a good option. It's a green and a black. It destroys target permanent, so there's no restriction on it there.
Ass trophy, baby.
Yep, and it's a controller can search for a basic land and put it on the battlefield. So it's not a huge feels bad if you end up using it on land for people because they still get a resource, but if there's like an actual pain to deal with land like that, you actually have an option for it. But it's also just removal that hits like almost everything as kind of a weird path to exile. But that aside, what a story. It's interesting.
It is, yeah.
I feel like that one learning is really key. Like when something is happening that reveals a ton of new information or is like this big kind of pivotal play, Scapeshift in particular is like a huge example of this where like suddenly, 8 new permanents or something are probably getting put into play. That's like a lot of new stuff coming into play that you should definitely wait to happen.
Yeah. And especially in a lands deck, because there's going to be these interesting utility lands that
Yeah.
come down. It's not just going to be a ton of basics, you know?
I was gonna say, I'm surprised nobody asked.
Yeah.
I feel like if somebody scape shifts, it's A, never good, and B, like I feel like I'm inclined to be like, what did you get? Like,
Yeah.
not just pass.
well,
the
I
turn
could see a
to, like-
delivery where it's like, okay, I'm going to Scapeshift, get 8 lands, so I'll go up 8 life, and then after that, I'm good. I'm passing
Yeah.
the turn.
And I'm gonna
then
look for
people
the lands
don't,
as I go.
really
Sure.
register that. But like, that is kind of sloppy. And to your point, in a lands deck, you really can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like specifically in a lands deck.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I guess I don't know. Sometimes I would scape shift in my old Angry Omnath deck, and I was just getting basics because I didn't run any other kinds
Yeah,
of fucking lands
for
back
sure.
in the day then.
Because you did, I mean, the whole purpose was your big.
Yeah,
I'm
I just
making
wanna
Want
make
the
it
triggers.
level.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
purely for the triggers.
Yeah, I think that's like a tough piece because sometimes you do want to speed play along. And if you had already, for the almost the entire game, you know, they're tutoring and passing and they're like, I'm just going to pass while I do this and shuffle
Yeah.
the deck. Like that happens a lot. And
But
I
it's
think,
so bullshit to drop
sometimes
a
you fall into
Bajuka Bog, right? And be like,
yeah,
Especially something that targets. So if you didn't
Yeah.
declare the target and do the thing, then like nothing happened.
yeah, like there's triggers that need to happen. I mean, we're pretty good about this in our pod where if someone is tutoring something consequential, we wait.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I'll have this in, this will come up in CDH games. Like I'm playing in the league and somebody tutored and they're like, I'm just going to do this tutor and then I'll pass. And I was like, well, I'm going to wait to see what you get. Because it was a reveal. And
Yeah.
I was like, you know,
And you might like draw your card for turn,
For sure.
untap your stuff, kind of get ready.
yeah.
But there's a point where you need to wait for stuff to resolve and not shortcut it before you take the next action. And that's like the key piece.
I mean, definitely, especially because it can just lead to these messy board states. There's a couple things in here that I think are like really interesting. One, I think that like, you know, you mentioned social cues and obviously like we're nerds, we're in a nerdy space. Social situations are tough anyways. Some people read social cues better than others. I think you have to like kind of give people some grace with that stuff because that could be just who they are as a person. They don't read those cues as well. Or maybe their type of fun that they like to play in their group is a little bit different. Maybe they like to play these salty decks. And to them, talking about the salty deck is like this fun, interesting thing where you're clearly having a bad time with it. So I get that that's a piece of it, but just like, you know, give strangers some grace when it comes to that kind of stuff. Cause it's hard. It's hard to be a nerd and have to talk to other people.
Yeah. And sometimes you feel like a social cue you're putting out into the world is extremely clear, but
Yeah.
you can be communicating all kinds of different stuff by getting a little bit upset about lands that are coming out. So,
Definitely.
you know, be aware that like, you know, sometimes it is on you also to be like, hey, this is actually really unpleasant to play against, you know, and just kind of be a little more
Yeah.
clear
direct
about it or something, or like, yeah, I'm really, you know, I'm annoyed that we have had to roll this back so many times. Let's try and play really cleanly in the
Yeah.
future. You know, even if you do that with the first time that the bog happens, like that's a moment where you can be like, instead of being, oh, I'm annoyed that I didn't know about this Bajuka bog, and I'll just kind of be grumpy about it and continue with my turns. Like, okay, I'm annoyed that this Bajuka bog happened. Let me use that to pause and be like, hey, it's important to me that we have a lot of clarity about what came out from that Scapeshift. So please walk us through the rest of the stuff so that I don't miss
What else
that
did you
glacial
get?
chasm and then have to try and rewind
Sure.
a different turn back.
So there's a couple other things here. One is like this person borrowed a deck. They've never played it before.
Yeah.
They're going in blind. Those moments I think can be fun. Like we do this sometimes at Magic conventions or when we're hanging out with friends. Like if I don't have a deck that's the right power level, I borrow one.
Mhm.
And I think that can be very enjoyable. But I do want to like flip through it real quick or at least get like the gist. Some decks are more complex than others. Some are going to be easier to pilot blind than others. You know, I think a Windgrace Lands deck is probably on the more complex side because you are introducing all these weird utility lands that maybe you've never ever seen before. And you have to kind of like go through and read them all. And, you know, there's like another level of complexity there, I think. I don't know what the right answer is for that because I think it's hard to be handed a deck that is kind of hard to pilot. And, you know, I don't know if it's on the pilot really. I feel like maybe the friend should have given them a different deck or something
Friend
along
Grace.
those lines. Friend Grace.
I mean,
Yeah.
piloting difficulty aside, also, it sounds like this deck's construction was not aimed at winning, but aimed at not losing.
Yeah. Yes.
And that can be just generally a really frustrating thing to play against.
For sure.
And sometimes a really good pilot of that deck will know the one way that the deck is trying to win. So they'll aim for that win con and try and find it really quickly and know how to do that. But if you're just piloting something you don't really understand, like you'll pull all of those answers and not know what you should be digging for and looking for to try and assemble a win, and you're left with just something that delays everybody else winning but never actually wins itself. And those are like, we've talked about this before, but playing against someone that's not trying to win is like kind of an annoying thing in general.
Kind of annoying. It fucking sucks.
Yeah,
Fuck those
it
people.
does. It sucks.
super sucks. Because the whole point of the fucking game is to win.
Yeah, and someone playing not to win is like extremely unpredictable and inherently kind of king-makey because they're going to end up leaving someone else to win the game.
Playing not to win is the new rival CDH show that Dylan and Cam really have to contend with. There's play to win and then there's play not to win.
But it's notably more frustrating to watch.
It's like, wow, these episodes are like 2 hours long, man. When is this game going to end?
It was kind of nice, though. There's a little bit of a happy ending because friend Grace came around and was like, oh, you like don't like this.
And
like felt kind
there
of
was some realization
so
there.
it's like, I think that matters. Hopefully they change the deck and hopefully Wind Grace announces what the fuck they do when they do escape shift next time. Because that feels like a pretty basic thing. What do we think about the salt rating here on this one?
I mean, it's clearly an incredibly salty story. The salt has left the shaker. It's spilled all over the table, and you walked out the store leaving a trail of salt. Like you blew up on. You're very aware of it. I must give you credit for that, George. Like you're super aware of it, but you did blow up on two strangers over a Magic game, and it happens.
Yeah, but you had the moment where it's like, my food is salty. Why is my food salty? And the person turns and is like, oh, I put salt on it last turn.
Oh, I took the fries and added an extra packet because I wanted it to really have a good kick to it. You don't like it like that? I thought everyone
liked it like that. Yeah, like, I don't know. There's just so many elements here. You got the person with the intentionally salty deck kind of setting up their friend for this weird game that's going to happen. Like you said, like a deck that isn't really aiming to win, playing it blind. You have the messy play that's like causing you to misplay and you can't roll things back cleanly. And then you had the answer and it slipped through your fingers and you scried it to the bottom of the deck because you were hoping for, it's kind of that like win more situation that you were talking about. So I think it's super high salt. Clearly you got pissed off enough. I think there was a question here that we should answer specifically, though. And it was, how would you have dealt with this in a less saline way? Would you intentionally play win more cards when you already have a winning line? And would you put land destruction in a casual list?
I'd put versatile, like I talked about with Assassin's Trophy. I'd put something in versatile that can deal with the land in an absolute pinch. But I think it is important to recognize, Beast Within, those things. Assassin's Trophy and the Niv Mizzet deck is important because it cares about like 2-color stuff. But I think it's also important to look for like win lines that don't involve removing pieces. Like some pieces are impossible for your deck to remove, but that's okay because you don't need to remove them. And in this case, Glacial Chasm is kind of like that. Like you maybe have this winning line if you don't need to remove it, or maybe you just focus on keeping yourself alive and you let the Traxa player proliferate the age counters on the Glacial Chasm, so they just lose 30 life at the beginning of their upkeep or something. So like, you look for your win lines that are different than that. But I don't know if I'd consider Witherbloom a win more either, really, in this situation.
Same. I don't really. I think you could have played it and just had it out. I mean, I don't know. It's a 2-color spell.
I think the big way that I'd handle this with less saline is the first time that you notice a game get a little scuffed or you need to do a rewind or something or revisit something, like in a pod with strangers, the first time that happens, you need to pause a little bit and be like, okay, let's all take this a little more carefully and make sure we get through everything. Like shortcuts are great. They can help with speeding games up, but they're really most useful when everyone's kind of on the same page naturally already. And you don't start there when you're starting in a group of unknown players that you're playing with.
Well said. Tony, any thoughts?
I mean, my main thing was to be like, when the fucking Scapeshift happens, just be like, what the fuck is going on?
yeah.
What are you
Which is
doing?
the more aggressive way of what Mike is saying.
Yeah.
But like, you know, like that's just who I am as a person. So that's what, I feel like, you know, you're not always going to know, like, you know, all the cards to quote be scared of. But when a bunch of shit comes out, you should always take that moment and be like, what is happening?
Yes.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
And to Mike's point, it's kind of like at that point, it would just be the trigger for me to turn to everybody else and be like, okay, well, that person's a problem now, right?
Mhm.
Like, what can we do? And just figure it out from there.
Yep.
But mostly, fuck that guy.
All right. You guys ready for another story?
Let's do it.
Ready.
What should I be searching here? What do you guys think? What you got? What you got?
Power.
Tower? Wow. This one's from last May. Let's do that.
Wow. I wonder when the first time we'll read a story that's more than a year old is.
Probably pretty soon.
Yeah.
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 I think pretty soon. All right. This one comes to us from our buddy Greg. And the post is titled Taking Paper Magic Too Literally. And the story goes. What up, Crusty Dicklings? First time, long time, and all that shit. Today, I thought I'd treat myself.
Nice.
Yeah, excellent. Today, I thought I'd treat myself to a game of Commander over Spell Table, since I had nothing better to do than sit on my crack. And it had been a while. And it had been a while.
It's been a while.
Been a while since I'd last played. I jump into a 7.
Since I sat on the crack.
It had been a while since I sat on my butt crack. I jump into a 7 to 8 lobby, which I take to mean that everyone will claim to be playing 7s, then vomit out every 30 to 50 pound commander staple that you can think of in quick succession. Excellent.
Yes.
And,
So you're in the right lobby.
Yeah, and hello from across the pond. The host is playing Sephiroth of the Hidden Ways. I'm running a 150 pound budget Gerard Golgari Lichlord deck, and the other players have Chisgoria and Kozilek the Great Distortion. The Kozilek player is using Proxies, which is all good by me. You would download a magic card. But they were clearly printed at home in black ink onto the worst quality paper imaginable, cut out unevenly and unsleeved. The deck looked like...
Wait.
Unsleeved, dude. That's so wrong. The deck... This is a stack of paper. The deck looked like it came out of a Pringles can with the amount of curl on them.
Well, regular magic cards.
Yeah.
Too.
So it's just a foil deck.
Yeah.
Kozilek is in the first turn order, then me, then Chiss, then Sephiroth. The first couple of turns are fairly uneventful. I play out a couple of mana dorks. It's all good Christian magic. Kozilek manages to get a natural Tron on turn 3, which seems a little suspect, but not totally unheard of, followed by a turn 4 Eye of Ugin and slams Kozilek. Sephiroth and I put aside our differences, despite him exiling my Mesmeric Orb, which is a completely reasonable thing to do, to keep all the Eldrazi bullshit under control with counterspells from him and a demolition field from me to take out Urza's Tower. Chisgoria plays with himself a bit, kills my Elvish Mystic, then scoops because he has to go sort something out. Get fucked, fourth player. After making a big target on my own head by sacking a 25-25 Lord of Extinction to the Gitrog Ravenous Ride to draw 25 cards, Kozilek establishes some board control by playing out a Void Winnower in before I can't even. I hate fucking Void Winnower, dude. Fuck that card. I look at my carefully sculpted hand, Nev's Disc, Invasion of Fiora, Life, Death, and Assassin's Trophy. All great removal or reanimate options, all even mana cost. My only option is to slam Vorinclex with the Saga on the back and flip it straight away, which nets me Soul of the Lost and a Grist, who immediately gets ticked down to kill the Void Winnower. Sephiroth does a load of Undercity business, flickers a bunch of stuff, and has a lot of big, beefy boys, including a massive consuming aberration, which makes my 34-35 Souls of the Lost look tiny, and Kunaros shutting down my graveyard shenanigans. The turn passes to Kozilek, who casually plays a Platinum Angel. His totally unreadable God's Pharaoh's Gift, which nobody knew anything about because it was a gray, smudgy mess, triggers, bringing back Void Winnower and getting around Kunaros. I'm forced to trophy the Platinum Angel in response, so he decides to swing everything else he has except the Winnower at me, hitting me with Annihilator, exiling my library down to about 15 cards with Ulamog's Ceaseless Hunger, and putting me to 9 life, with my board reduced to 1 Souls of the Lost, the Grand Evolution with 1 counter on it. A whole shitload of lands and a dream. The other players are sitting around 40 life. My turn starts and I notice that Kozilek has only 1 blocker up, the Void Winnower. My Saga triggers and I put the counters on my only creature, making it a 46-47. The best removal is player removal, right? I swing in, he blocks with Void Winnower. I'm able to cast my 4 CMC commander, fling the souls, and win the game. You might be surprised to hear that I enjoyed the game. There's lots of interaction and shifting factions, and everyone's deck got to do its thing, and everyone was a threat at some point or another. What I do get salty about is having to squint at someone's god-awful proxies and have to ask their board state multiple times per turn cycle. Oh, and the anti-playmat incident, but that's another story right there, as in that's the entire story. What terrible things have you had to look at on someone's board, be it in person or over the internet? Stay salty, Greg in Nottingham, pronounced Nottingham.
Nottingham.
Thanks, Greg. I hope you enjoyed Nottingham.
Nottingham.
Nottingham nuts. Wow, that's quite the saga. Well written. I appreciate it. A lot of crunchy interactions and cards in there. I don't think we need to read too many. The important one is that Void Winnower. You probably picked it up on it from the story, but you can't cast things with an even mana cost.
Yeah. I don't even think it's that important. I think the important thing is the fucking raw ass proxies. I can't believe they were unsleeved.
It's nuts.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Like
you just keep
cut out uneven
sheets of paper.
Yeah, it's just a stack of like cut up printer paper.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Like
8.5 by 11 classic, like not even cardstock, so that there's like some weight to them.
I know.
Like,
not even sticky notes. You could put it into a deck.
How do you shuffle them? How do you like anything?
That's the thing. It's
do they have like basic lands or wastes? Like can you imagine like they've got like the lands just
as real Magic cards?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like the whole thing was paper like that.
Yeah, but sure.
It does kind of. I mean, I think there was a bit of suspicion of deck manipulation or deck stacking or like dishonest deck order, I guess you could say, because they assembled Tron on turn 3. So you're hitting Urza's Tower, Urza's Power Plant, Urza's Mine right off the top.
Yeah.
Into your Ugin's Nexus or whatever it was.
It is a fucking dream.
When you print them out, they all come out in alphabetical order, and then you cut them out and you stack them up, and then you can't shuffle for shit. So of course all of your Urza's lands are right next to each other.
And you cut those ones a little bit differently, so you can easily just put them to the top.
Even without cheating, you're gonna have a hard time splitting those up. They're gonna end up in the same hand.
It is definitely that is a hard shuffle situation. Like
not hard, like impossible.
Yeah.
Right?
So we talk a lot about like embracing proxies, letting proxies be okay. You know, we all care more about playing against an interesting deck than playing against like the most someone can spend on money on cardboard.
Yeah.
So like that's not a big thing. There is a level of like making it functional that you know is appreciated, and like the minimum of that is kind of putting those slips of paper in front of a real card and putting it in a sleeve, just so that you have something that's a little bit more of like the actual shape of a deck. I will say, like, that's not going to stop me from playing with someone if that's all they've got and that's how they want to do it.
I think it would stop me.
I wouldn't want to. I would ask if they have anything else.
I think this would stop.
Like, yeah, if you literally you didn't even bother to sleeve it, like take a bicycle deck and like you know
anything,
put some real cards behind it so it's like a real card, like your literal fucking pieces of paper, dude. You're gonna sit there and play Magic with it. I would just be like, nah, my kindness stops somewhere. And it's way before just cut out pieces of paper.
It's nuts, dude.
There is this specific question of like, what's the worst thing you guys have seen on Spell Table? I mean, obviously my shitty handwritten proxies are pretty far up there. But
like the difference is like clarity. Because I will say, like normally when that happens, it's like I can see it written out. Like I see the words of what the card is intended to be.
The name.
So I don't like looking at it because it like takes me out of the game a bit, and it's like it's like less fun. And I've seen that Mastermind Plum so many times.
Oh my God!
One I gotta fucking give you.
Fucking buy one.
Do you have one?
I think
You gotta give me that. Did you get the Clue Secret Lair?
I don't.
Give me your fucking cards so that
Give me
I can.
plum.
Give me your plum.
Give them to you so that I don't have to look at your proxies anymore. But I know it's Plum when it comes down.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah,
So
or
it's like-
shouldered.
So that's the thing is like Mike has a couple of these ugly handwritten proxies, but one, they're in sleeves, and two, you only have a few of them in the deck.
Yeah, they're like 5.
So like when they come up, it's pretty easy to understand what they are. And after you play against the deck a few times, you like know what it is. And on spell table, you can type it into the side. And because everything else is clear, there's not that many cards that we've had.
I mean, everything's a planes and fucking spell table anyway. So I'm always typing
typing it in because the camera recognition sucks.
Yeah.
So that's like not that bad. I have played against, like with this question, one deck comes to mind for me. I've played against this one deck. I was out in LA randomly, brought a CDH deck with me, and went to this LGS and played some CDH. And they had a big CDH night going on. And I played against this girl, and she was playing Narset, Enlightened Master. And it was like extra turns Narset. And she had printed out the deck that day. And I guess there's this website, I don't know the exact one, where you can print out your Magic cards. So you can like cut up proxies real easy and like slide them into decks. Everything was sleeved. Everything was, it was like a shuffleable deck. That wasn't a problem. But there was this option to print with like a reduction in color so that it didn't eat up a ton of ink. So every card looked white. It was like just white and black, like real minimal.
Was it just the Moxfield playtest cards? Because if you go into Moxfield and say print playtest, it does the card art, but then like the board, like the background of all of the border and the card box is just text. There's no like blue fade or like green fade or anything. Yeah.
So it was just that. So the cards looked like weird. Like they didn't, you didn't have like the glancing recognition.
Yeah.
Even though the art was still there. It was because the art wasn't in full color either. It was like reduced to like save ink. And we were talking about it, and it's a cool concept because you can print out a ton of cards. They are easy to read as far as like legibility goes, but hard to recognize.
Yeah.
And that was tough. That was tough. And she also fucking whipped my ass with that deck too. It was brutal.
Yeah.
We played this one CDH game, and I think it ended up being a 3-top because there just was not a lot of people. And this other person just was not playing a CDH deck. They had some like high power shit they brought to the CDH night. And I just got crushed, and she was just hitting infinite turn after infinite, like extra turn, extra turn, extra turn. We were like, this game's fucking over.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably the worst I've seen. I'm definitely guilty of like, I don't do it much anymore, but like I would just take a sticky note and write the name of the card and do it. Now I like draw a little proxy because I've been doing that a bunch for shit.
I think it's also different though when it's kind of like we were mentioning before with Mike's deck. It's like a couple of the cards.
Yeah.
And so it's not so bad, like because you recognize everything else, and it's like, okay, there's one thing on the table that I don't really recognize, but I know what it is because we've talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like fine. When it's every card, that's the case of like, oh wait, what is it? Dude. That's how it just gets confusing. Yeah. I don't think I've ever really experienced much of anything where I wouldn't play against it, but I would draw the line here.
I would not play
if you had scraps of paper, I'd be like, no,
like
bro.
Don't have a Magic deck, borrow one of mine.
Yeah.
Or I'd go into if it's on spell table, you can concede the game at any time, folks. I would go in, see the deck and be like, hey, Chiscoria player had something to do. I also have something.
Yeah, I wonder if Chiscoria had something to do, or if they had something to go not look at those cards.
I have something to do, and it's find another lobby to play Magic.
Yeah.
So what do we think about the Sol rating here on this one?
I mean, it's a fantastic story. I loved it, but holy fuck, that deck would drive me crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Especially if they're doing stuff that you think is like dishonest with stacking the deck up and things like that. Like, I don't know, fuck that. I'd be so salty. If someone is playing against me with that shitty deck and they're beating my ass with it, I would be really mad.
Yeah. I feel that. I definitely feel that.
I think overall this is seeming much less salty to me than it is to you guys. Yeah, the deck would be annoying, but like you're still playing. You can still ask people what the cards are. You're still doing it. Like, I don't know. I remember in high school playing Magic over the phone with people that were definitely cheating. So like there is a level, I don't know. People often say shit like, for D&D, for example, like no D&D is better than bad D&D. I think this still arrives at the level of Magic that's like potentially you're still playing more than not playing, right? It's still more recognizable as a game of Magic than it is something else.
People say that until they put a fan next to that person, and then all of their cards blow away because
that would
they can't even stay on the fucking table.
But again, at its core, it sounds like the game that actually transpired was pretty cool and
Yeah.
had some fun back and forth and some interesting stuff, despite it being a 3-player game at the end of the day. So, a little bit of salt. And like, if I had to deal with that every single time I played with a friend, that would be really annoying. But like,
hell yeah.
as a one-off here and there, like it would be, I would get it.
Yeah, I appreciate your positivity.
Our differences of
I appreciate our
opinion.
differences. What a rich tapestry of diversity we have in our perspectives here. And that should be celebrated. Because I would be like, fuck this. And it's a fucking 3-player game. I'm out. I don't need this. Oh, man. I'd rather play no Magic than 3-player Magic against an illegible deck. Another story?
Let's do
One
it.
more.
All right. What should I search here in this little bag of tricks?
Tricks.
There we go. All right. All right, folks. I got another one right here. And this one comes to us from our buddy Quasi. And the post is titled, "Are Jedi Mind Tricks Acceptable?" Yes. It says yes in parentheses.
Oh, I thought you were saying yes.
No, they answered it already. They're like, yes.
Okay, cool. Then we're good. We don't need to read
All
the
right.
story.
Yeah. Thanks for the story.
Hey, Sam, is it that time of the week?
And the story goes, "Greetings, lads. After listening for a few months, I finally decided to provide some content for the mill." Well, we're a mine, but I appreciate that. This story takes place during COVID lockdown, so I don't remember all the details. It involves one of my favorite plays, but I also made someone pretty salty in the process. So you be the judge if it was worth it. I was playing a spell table game with 3 local guys who I've met a couple of times at the LGS, but didn't really know too well. It was second game of the night. I don't remember anything about the first game, but I suppose it must have gone pretty well because everyone was in a good mood. Player 1, let's call him John, is on Heliod the Sun Crowned, mono white, life gain, and combo. Player 2, let's call him Eric, is playing some Gruul aggro deck, the details of which I've completely forgotten. I'm in the third seat playing Zombie Tribal with Grim Grin at the helm, and player 4, let's say his name is Michael, doesn't matter at all to this story, as is tradition.
Nice.
And I will add in the get fucked fourth player here. To be honest, the only relevant information here is that John plays Heliod with Walking Ballista.
Ayo.
Classic combo.
Wombo combo.
It is a wombo.
That ain't Falco.
In the first few turns of the game, John gets off to a super strong start with a Soul Sister and Mana Vault on turn 1, Heliod on turn 2, and a Core Cartographer on turn 3. Everyone else develops somewhat normally, so we all agree John is the primary threat. The pressure is turned up when John plays an Elesh Norn Grand Cenobite a few turns ahead of schedule and pretty much wipes my board and at least neuters everyone else's as well. At this point, it is obvious how this game is going to end. All life totals, except for John's, are going down rapidly thanks to the Elesh Norn's enhanced beats. John then casts an Enlightened Tutor in Michael's end step right before his turn and says, almost apologetically, "I could get Walking Ballista here, but then the game is over." I look down at my hand and see Cyclonic Rift, which I can only cast for 2 mana at this point. I say, well, just go for it and see what happens. You'll probably win either way. The 2 others agree, and John puts the Walking Ballista on top of his deck. At this point, the other 2 players and I confer, which thanks to Spell Table, John can obviously hear, and talk about how we can avoid dying to the Walking Ballista / Heliod combo on the next turn. I say, I've got interaction, but it won't do much here. He can just recast his commander easily. He could even cast the Walking Ballista for 0 to save some mana. The other 2 admit that they've got nothing, so we give John the go-ahead to start his turn. So John untaps, looks at his board of Heliod, Elesh Norn, and some other stuff, whatever, doesn't really matter, but of course it's huge thanks to Elesh Norn, and casts his Walking Ballista for 0. I can barely contain my excitement. As I say, okay, with Ballista on the stack, I cast Cyclonic Rift on his Elesh Norn, bouncing it to his hand. Ballista then comes into play as a 0/0 and dies immediately. Combo averted. I feel like a genius. But John gets super mad, saying I lied to him and goaded him into making a bad play. I maintain that I only told the truth and stated obvious things about his board state. We argue back and forth a little bit, and John threatens to leave at one point, but in the end, he reluctantly agrees that his Ballista just dies. Unfortunately, he can still cast the Elesh Norn again and swing everything at me, which, combined with a removal spell on my commander, kills me easily. I played a few times with these guys since then, and John has never really forgiven me. When in doubt, he always targets me first now. Oh well, I still think that was the best Jedi mind trick I've ever played on someone in Magic. Thanks for making my bike rides to work more enjoyable. Cheers, Quasi.
Nice.
I love that, dude. That's so good. I'm just
one.
I need to read what he said again. He said, I've got interaction, but it won't do that much here. He can just recast his commander easily. He could even cast the Ballista for 0 to save some mana. That's pretty slick. That's pretty slick, Kwasi. That's pretty fucking slick, dude.
Nefarious. It's like, you could even cast it for 0. Oh,
So slick.
I would be so fucking mad. And we always talk about the add-on effects of these types of things, where it's like you got what you did in the moment. It's funny, like, but like now forever. You're gonna get targeted first. So that psych riff for one actually said also get targeted for the rest of the time that I play games with this player.
Go to target opponent to attack you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, 50% chance of that happening though. That's not guaranteed.
Yeah, that's the hidden text. Yeah. Oh man, I would be salty if I got by this. Like you walk into it and you're like, yeah, I can cast it for free. All right, I'll do it. And then they're like, fuck you. And you're like, fuck. Idiot, dude. Those Jedi mind tricks, man, they get you.
Oh, they fucking do.
I love these. There's one situation where these actually get me really salty, and they're when I'm playing with someone that I think is less experienced than me. Like one of the beautiful things about playing with people that I have confidence in them knowing the game is that I'm willing to pull this kind of shit with them because they're able to think through that stuff. And like, yeah, you can play the Walking Ballista for 0, but you should be aware like that could potentially die because if the Elish Norn isn't there giving it that static +2/+2, your 0/0 is going to die. If it's a new player, though, and you want to be able to talk through stuff, like as soon as you give a comment like this and give an option, and then you've given strategic advice that you then fuck with, like it suddenly becomes not okay. And those are the moments where I've seen and I've felt like that's when it gets shitty. For this situation, when everyone's kind of an even peer, like you got them. Yeah. Sometimes you get got. And as long as you're not like fully lying about it, it's kind of fine. It's kind of the game.
I mean, I can't think of any specific instances where this has happened in our pod, but I know it does. I know that we like not like trick each other into misplaying, but like
we egg you into stretching a little bit too thin.
Yeah, exactly. Or like doing something that maybe you won't do that's going to benefit you later. Like, hey, you've been swinging at me. I got an open.
Literally, Mike actually, being like, how many times did you do that thing? And I'm like, 400,000.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
It is a super common thing, I feel like, specifically in CDH too, where like sometimes you'll even be doing it to try and deflect and like get other people worried about a player. But when you're like, when you talk through what someone else's win line is, just to make it clear that you see what they can do and everyone else sees what they can do. Like it's a pretty good way of getting someone to then follow that win line, even if they have another like slightly different approach they could take for it.
Yeah. And especially if you're like, I have interaction, but I can't really do anything to like, like you can.
Or you're saying like, I can't interact with this. Yeah. Which is the thing they're doing in that moment. But you can stop the win still. I feel like Sam is he does this all the time where he's like, I can't stop what's happening right now.
Yeah.
But like 3 interactions down the chain, he'll stop it if he's going to lose. Yeah. But like, it is a moment where it's like, okay, like it makes me feel like, all right, I need to do something if I have something in hand, like kind of forcing other people to use their interaction or do things.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that's probably the most common mind trick sort of style thing that we do is like pushing interaction to the next player so you can save yours.
I mean, priority bullying? You bully me?
I still don't understand priority bullying, so who knows? I mean, maybe. I can't say whether or not. But yeah, I think that does happen. I don't know. I kind of love that stuff. But like you said, there's the social price to pay.
Yeah.
And here, it sounds like this was taken pretty well. The person didn't fully scoop, but they were maybe gonna.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't know. I think you can expect that on average when you just fully stuff somebody in that way.
Yeah.
If
you get them that good, like they're like, oh, think they're about to win, and you egged them into it. Like,
oh, you totally did. To do the cast for 0, like that's so. To even just
like, you should try and win anyway. Whatever, it'll just see what happens. And then like, oh man, he can even do it for 0. Like, if this was me, as soon as they cast that, I would have been like, fuck you. I would have been so mad.
Like I fucking scooped.
I wouldn't.
I scooped.
I wouldn't have scooped, but I would have done exactly what they did, where I would have been like, okay, I'm full swing at you now.
Yeah.
And like, even if it was the wrong move in the moment, I would definitely also going to remove your commander and killed you.
course,
Like,
yeah.
there's no.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just.
But you
really
won that
brought-
game in reality.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's a funny story too. I mean, like those are also moments that can cause somebody to target you forever, but also moments that can be really funny to look back on.
Yeah,
you know,
for
it's that
sure.
type 2 fun that Mike talks about,
Mm.
where maybe they didn't have fun in the moment, but looking back on it, you'll be like, yeah, that was actually a pretty good move.
What do we think about the salt rating here on this one?
Not incredible. Well, I'd say this is like a couple salt packets. I don't think it's so high that like you're having this salty taste in your mouth forever, but every once in a while you can recall the flavor of that salt and be like, oh yeah, you did do this thing to me one time. And I kind of remember how that felt. So I might as well swing my 1/1 Llanowar at you.
And my hope is that that's the level of salt it is, that it's a very
Yeah.
mild, chill, fun. Because if it's actually like a grudgy salt where you're like, "Grr, I'm mad at you because you did this," and it's like, all right, well, calm down. Like, settle down.
You want it to be exactly the level of if all things were equal, you're the one that gets hit. But if
Exactly.
someone's actually a threat, they're not blinded by their slight salt towards
Yeah.
you, and they do hit the actual threat.
I think the ideal outcome of that is kind of like the relationship that Tony and Nick have when they play Magic, where if everything is equal,
Nick is blinded.
sometimes if everything is equal, you're going to target each other because it's
Yeah.
funny. And there's like been this feud, you know, hashtag respect the feud, all this like bit that's been going on. And it's like, well, I'm going to lean back on the bit
Yeah.
if I have no other targets.
Right.
And I'll
What's
go at
funny
Tony.
is-
Why not?
And you two sort of have the opposite of that going on.
Yeah,
where, like
exactly.
even if Sam is exactly the threat, Tony's just never gonna target.
Well, Tony's like, if I have to, if all things are equal and I have to king make one player, I'm gonna
give it to Sam every time.
Yeah.
You guys suck.
Every single time.
Yeah, that extra draw off that Howling Mine was really helpful.
Yeah.
Oh my
Thank
God.
you.
Whatever, Sam. Is it that time of the fucking week?
I don't know. It seems like
Actually, I think the time of the week comes in 5 more minutes. I think we have to dwell on this a little longer. No, it is that time of the week, Tony. It's the time of the week that comes every week.
Well, lay it on me. What time is it? You
It's-
did it wrong, I think.
Yeah, we did do it wrong. Well,
what?
it's the time of the week that comes every week.
Every motherfucking week.
It's the time of the week where we say, Mike.
Mike.
huh?
Aw,
Oh.
what's the salty card of the week?
Salty card of the week this week is
I see a red card and I want it painted black. No Rakdos anymore, it should be mono black. I see a deck get played in old ink treader brew. I have to turn my head cause it should be black too. I play a line of swamps and they all tap for black. With coffers and Urborg, I make a lot of black. I see people turn their heads and try to cast Doomblade, but that will never go at me or any creature I play.
Thanks, Sam. That was a lovely salty song of the week.
Yeah, that was
It'd be hilarious if you never did one.
I will. I'll definitely put one in post. And that was Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones, a cover of that. And it was requested by, why don't I just have a tracking sheet for this bullshit? I'm
feel like you
so
do have one.
unprepared. I have, but I don't maintain it. Oh, man. I have like a playlist on Spotify now that just has it all in there, but obviously it doesn't have the fucking names. And that one was requested by someone. Someone requested it. Fuck, I'll just have to put it in post. I cannot find it, man. Come on, Sam. You're making me work so hard. That one came to us from our patron, Serotinus Sequoia. Thanks, dude.
Salty card of the week.
No, you
this
have to
week.
thank me, even though I, didn't sing it.
I
You
did
gotta-
already. But then we re-sidetracked.
Oh, sorry.
Well,
Sam-
thanks, Sam.
Sam-
Is
editing
refusing to do it twice.
Here's a
Sam, the
couple.
editing
I'll do
room
it two
really
extra
cleaned it up.
times. Well, thanks, Sam. That was a lovely salty song of the week. Well, thanks, Sam. That was a lovely salty song of the week.
With this next take, Mike, your motivation is that the salty song actually made you cry. It was so good.
Thank you, Sam. That was That was really a lovely salty song of the week.
It's looking good. You're gonna get a call back, dude.
Gonna get a call back.
Thanks, Mike.
The salty song of the week, the salty card of the week this week is Rest in Peace.
Oh, rest in peace.
No, it's French. Rest in peace.
Peace.
Rest in
I'm
peace.
never gonna read that card right for the rest of my life now.
It is
Ripperoonie.
1 and a white for an enchantment. When Rest in Peace enters the battle, I can't read it without thinking that now too. When Rest in Peace enters the battlefield, exile all cards from all graveyards. If a card or token would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead.
Yep.
So, Tony, what do you think about this one?
You know, I don't love it. I feel like it's one of those like annoying stacks pieces that isn't so bad,
Yeah.
but it's not great. You know, it can like hose your strategy, but usually you have the ability to like pivot because you know it's there, and it doesn't have flash. Like it comes down, like it hurts if I got something in my yard that I want there, but like
Yep.
it's not like they're sneaking it onto the battlefield or anything.
Like a sneaky Bajuka bug.
Yeah, like a sneaky Bajuka bug. But it's like it's certainly it's like annoying. I feel like it's an annoying effect that'll be there that like doesn't really like make me super salty, but I am annoyed when it's on the battlefield for sure.
Yeah.
Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think like graveyard hate pieces, especially ones like this that lock you out so hard, range from I don't care to this is the tiniest annoyance to my entire deck does not function.
Yeah.
Like if you're in a graveyard,
it depends
deck,
on the deck you're playing,
fucked.
I guess.
You're so fucked.
Yeah.
And if it comes down, like you can, generally speaking with this card, people just jam it. They don't hold on to it. Like it's better to just have it out consistently, but like it can come down on a pivotal turn before you want to reanimate something and you've loaded up your graveyard. These effects are really, I haven't played it in a long time and I don't really play it as much, but my Alesha Human deck is essentially a graveyard reanimator. So these types of effects completely shut that deck down. And then all I can do is just like swing with like 2/2s and it's really, really bad.
Yeah.
So
I was just thinking if somebody had this out and I was like playing Rafine, I would throw everything at them until they were dead or removed it. Like
that's what you kind of have to do is like, and the other problem with stacks pieces like this is that it really is very asymmetrical in how it hits the table because the chances that you're playing against 3 other graveyard decks is very, very slim.
Yeah.
And the chance that one person has some graveyard synergies is pretty high, you know, even if it's just like a reanimator package or something. Like there's a lot of decks like that. So it's a piece that comes down, fucks over you in particular in many scenarios. And you're also, because of that, you're also the only person who is incentivized to remove it and deal with it.
Yeah.
So your game shifts and becomes like, how do I get rid of this thing? And everyone else is like, that thing's great. I love that thing. It's stopping you.
Well, this is like essentially my original interaction with Beat because he had a Soul Guide Lantern.
Yeah, the Soul Guide Lantern, dude.
That like he could crack at any point.
Yep.
To fuck me over because I was playing Rafine.
Oh, Rafine. Okay.
And I was like, fuck you. And so then I just attacked him into oblivion. I don't even remember what happened that game.
But
lot
like,
of salt. It's like it draws that kind of interaction where it's like, I must remove you. And to your point, like only one person usually cares.
Yeah. Which is tough. How do you feel about it, Mike?
There's one other little edge case piece that's like really relevant for it, which is it's a replacement effect. So it stops all of the dies triggers. So it does shut off like even extra stuff. It's not just reanimator stuff. Even if you're just running like, whenever my stuff dies, you lose one and you're trying to aristocrat stuff. Like you can't get there.
Stuffed.
Yep. But then also you guys kind of talked about it, but normally these pieces, both of these effects are separated.
Yeah.
There's effects that come in and exile yards, Bajuka Bog, and then there's effects that statically exile stuff as it goes to the yard, like Douthie Voidwalker or something. And each of those are they're really painful for graveyard effects, for graveyard decks, but you can play around them differently. If you're suspecting a Bajuka Bog, you wait to load up your graveyard.
Yep.
If you're suspecting a Douthie, you try and load things up, and then when Douthie's out, you try and not load up and wait for it to go away kind of its own accord. With just knowing Rest in Peace is in somebody's deck, you don't know whether to try and load up in advance because they might play Rest in Peace and fuck you, or you don't know whether to like not load up and wait because they might just play it and then you don't have the chance to like load up your graveyard after the fact. So the fact that it's both like retroactive and a permanent like sticking effect that is frustrating, it's pretty annoying.
I'm sorry. All I heard you say there was rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Where does it sit on the list?
Wouldn't you like to know, Tony? Why don't you guys take some guesses? If you're prospecting at home and you want to play along, where do you think this falls in the top 300 saltiest cards on EDH Rec? Don't go look it up because that's cheating and boring and you won't be able to have as much fun for future times.
Prospecting at
Mike's
home.
calling
I
all
like
the
that.
prospectors cheaters.
Yeah.
All right, I got to guess.
I do too.
Hit me with them.
163.
I think it's 69.
69.
I think it's high up.
Tony takes it.
Get fucked.
Shit.
It is 290.
Jesus
Oh.
Christ. I was so off.
Yeah.
I was so far off. I couldn't have been more wrong. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Damn.
Despite
Why do I
its-
keep doing this? I keep being like, I think it's in the top 100. Nah. It hasn't been in months.
Yeah. Yeah, so despite its like high impact and kind of classic role as graveyard hate, I think since it's only hitting this one strategy that not everyone is partaking, it manages to dodge some of the hate there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I used to run this in my Thrasios deck, my Dawnwaker Thrasios deck, as like anti-breach combo,
Right.
basically. Because it was just like a nice one-off stacks piece that like I could land pretty early, and if someone was gonna do turbo breach shit, they
Couldn't.
have to chew through that first. You know?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for playing.
Thanks, Mike. That was a lovely salty card. And thank you to all of our prospectors at home for hanging out again with us this week in the mine. We're going to shout out our Salt Packet Plus tier members. And Sam, in that beautiful editing room, hit us with that. Say it right now. Do it. And this week we have Thoughtsmith's Prime, Rothbox, Sire Speedy, Bobo Fett, Brimstone, Captain Cross, Elgo Fogel, Clearbrook, D. Beeson, Gilgamesh, Doug's Dad, Bark Bark, Pez, Swankub, The Quiet One, and Vok. Thank you all for being so lovely. We love you all. All right. Thanks, Sam. That was lovely. You're the best, and you're great. And man, you're just so cool. Thanks to all the prospectors that hang out with us every single week. If you're looking for more Howling Salt Mine content, you know where to go. Our Patreon, patreon.com/Howling Salt Mine. That's where we have all of our bonus content. We have our once a month extra salt show that we do. I think we have 25 or 26 of those out right now. 'Cause we've been doing this for a while. We also have all of our stray grains that come out. Those are coming out. These days, we at least have one a week. I've been able to extract more as we've had some more silly times and kind of leave the recording running a little bit longer, because there's a period where we were very clean with our records. And I was like, we don't have anything here. And we also have our Off the Rails series on there. If you want more bonus content, if you're caught up with the show, we have like over 50 hours of content on our Patreon that you can chew through. It's really, really fun. It's great stuff. Some of our favorite stuff is over there. And you also get access to the Discord at our base level on Patreon, where you can hang out with us, play in our monthly game nights, chat with us about new spoilers, jump in our CDH league the next time we spin that around, and, you know, just have a good time with the other prospectors. You can also get our token tier as you move up there. Give me salty song requests. There's a lot of fun things in there, so go check it out. Another way that you can help out the show is to give us your salty stories. Send them to us at our Gmail, which is at thehowlingsaltmine@gmail.com, or you can submit it on our website, which you'll find at howlingsaltmine.com or thehowlingsaltmine.com. There is a little link on there, a form you can fill out, and that'll send it right to our Gmail. And every single week, we spin it around, wiggle our hands in there, throw in a random search term, and find a story.
Yeah, but first we wiggle our hand around in there.
Yep. Oh, our hands.
We're
Our
gonna
hands, Tony.
We're going to start getting like SEO'd, like search optimized things, like messages with just like a slew of words
Just
at
like
the bottom of the email so that it shows up for any
I
search.
think there's character limits, and I think if someone did that with our Gmail, it would be marked as spam. So who knows? Another way you can help out the show is to check out our merchandise. We have a bunch of new awesome shit on our Bonfire store and our Jank Mats website. We finally have the 1-800-RU Flapping playmat, Blue is a Trash Color for Trash People playmat, and our Howling Wizard Salty Gang playmat. So check that out. Those guys make the best playmats. Also, if you're ever ordering things directly from Dragon Shield, you can use our affiliate code at checkout, save a little bit of cash yourself. Next time you're getting custom Dragon Shield sleeves or what have you, punch in Stay Salty, all one word, all lowercase, at checkout as your discount code. It's going to help us look good. It's going to save you a little bit of cash. It's all good shit. Lastly, we're going to ask you to do it. Give us a 5-star review in your favorite podcast app of choice.
Please.
So clean. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever. Follow us on YouTube. Find us on social media, wherever you may be at. We're on Blue Sky now. It's really nice and cool over there. We like it. So check it out. And lastly, we got to shout him out. Our buddy Devin Burnett for giving us our beautiful podcast art. If you're ever in Asheville, North Carolina, hit him up and get a tattoo because he's a really cool guy.
10,000 subscribers are bust.
Indeed. And that's it, everybody. As always, stay salty and don't forget to draw an additional card during your draw step.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Yeah, they say that if you have like lactic acid in your muscles and you quench it with alcohol.
It actually breaks down lactic acid.
Yeah, it does. It dissolves.
Yeah, it
dissolves into it.
Acid.
So, I mean, that's science. And you
But
can't
if just
refute it.
quenching your muscles with alcohol.
feels horrible.
Yeah,
That's how I feel right now.
Yeah, that's why people take alcohol baths after hard workouts.
Yeah, exactly. And or have like an alcohol enema to really just hit it. Just really get it in you fast.
Yeah, you
know?
just gotta boof.
Yeah, you got to boof the Amaro.
You got.
You gotta
Yeah, you're
boof.
really good.
Just boof some green chartreuse, and you're going to be fine. Give me a little isolated mic.
A little isolated mic.
Let me turn you up a little bit more.
Little isolated mic.
A little isolated
A
mic.
little isolated mic. All on his lonesome, sitting the farthest away.
Now, Tony, give me a little Tony.
Hello.
Give me some Tony laughs.
Maybe a little.
All right, let me turn all these down. Touch.
To the board state. Is that a little bug up there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hanging
stink
out.
bug, just
Nice.
hanging out.
Hey, stink bug. In the mine. There's a stink bug in the mine. Does anyone smell that in the mine?
What the fuck am I gonna sing for this one? I don't even know. dude.
Sam from the editing room. Sing us a song.
Is Sam from the
You're
editing
the salt man.
I think maybe I was gonna do. Man, what the fuck are these songs?
I want to salted black.
I see the bird.